ambient engagement for young people. So we don't do that anymore. I would say that we probably invest more money and have more impact, but it's more behind the scenes. And I think that's part of having this opportunity to talk to you about, tell you about that stuff. So I think that has been great. So the deep work we're doing, investing in the creative sector, the deep work we're doing much more through partnerships. So we're trying to be more generous by enabling Kenyan organizations, UK organizations to do the work. But that means somewhere our voice has been lost or somewhere our recognition has been lost. So I think the season will help us to understand how we could be more banging. I don't know if we'll get to the banging that we were, but how can we be a bit more? And I think listening and learning is going to be really important, but we will never, I think, go back to that kind of public-facing organisation that we were. But I think we need to be much better at talking about the opportunities that Sandra can mention for young people to engage, but also to always connect to our core purpose. So we are the only organisation that is funded as a charitable purpose to connect the UK and Kenya. So every project has to think about how do we have that mutuality. So that then you can start to see, well, the resources, as you know, aren't particularly abundant. So how do we use our small resources, but more importantly, who we are and what we know to make those connections? And we believe they have benefits in Kenya and benefits in the UK, but we have to find that connecting point. And I think that can feel different. And I think that also feels different because, as we've seen here, most of you haven't been in this building. We haven't invited people in. You can still see the graffiti from WAPI. A lot of artists that are big today started on the stage here. So we still think we'll have that impact in 20 years' time, but they're on stages that we've helped Kenyans to put together. They're on stages that the UK partners are putting together for Kenyans and for the UK artists. So I think we're trying to find what is the purpose of the kind of branding or the awareness of the British Council. And it's really about opportunities and supporting our partners to tell our story. So I think we haven't got it right. And I think the season is helping us to understand and listen to you how we can do better and more banging.
More banging. That's really well said. I will not add to that, except to give an example. You know, my introduction to the British Council was also through WAPI. I was here, you know, watching Dr. Pizzo, forge his career in this parking lot. And it was really a dynamic place to be. And it was because that was the kind of platform that the ecosystem needed at that time. The kind of support that the ecosystem needs now is investment. And we are at a point where we are almost full circle, having watched Sauti Sol build their chops here at WAPI into them getting investment to run workshops for their own music label from the British Council. I think that's a beautiful story, right? That it comes around and it's more deeper than it has been before. And then I just want to clarify on the question on events presentation. Is the question about innovation in platforms?
Innovation or any platforms.
Okay. So as Tom was mentioning, and I'd like to build on that, the approach that we take at the British Council has really evolved. And now we look at work that is artist-centered and that responds to the needs of artists directly. So even with all the funding opportunities available at the British Council for the arts and culture, we fundamentally are asking, what are you trying to do? Who are you trying to do it with? Why now? And what's the impact? So I don't have a direct response to that question, but because the British Council is not building innovations in event management, but we have had grantees in the past, like Hustle Sasa, through the Ignite Culture platform, that have been able to work with the creative communities to develop their business skills, to recognize what does it mean to use digital media to articulate your vision, showcase your products, and reach your target audiences. So in that way, we are not responsible for the innovations, but we have supported platforms that are interested in coordinating and elevating what's possible in eventing, in ticketing, and also in presenting dynamic work. There's a project as well that Dionis can talk to you a little bit about that supported a VR company, Black Rhino, to develop the first ever, is it ever? Ever, AR media platform, so augmented reality platform where artists can be commissioned and can work on new work that is in augmented reality and make their sales on those platforms. So there are several innovations that the British Council has been able to support in the recent years that we definitely want to elevate and tell the stories of. And then when it comes to what funding opportunities are available, we're really excited that on the 2nd of May, we will have the Braid Fund go live. The Braid Fund is a collaboration between TICA, which is the Trust for Indigenous Cultures and Health, as part of our Culture Grows program that our colleague Mo manages and can tell you a lot more about. This is the 3rd season of this grant, and we're really keen to see how we can support cultural heritage practitioners who are really interested in understanding what the contemporary value of the work is and how they can reach new audiences through technology. So that fund goes live on the 2nd, and lots is available online on the same. And then speaking to potential outcomes, we really are thinking about how young people will strengthen their craft, how they will articulate their voice and their ambitions through these projects, and also how they will commit to the change that they want to make in the world. We have fantastically complex monitoring and evaluation systems which will help us tell you those stories once they are live. But we see that through collaboration, a lot of that work happens. That by meeting and exchanging in your context and identifying where you're from and what you bring, you're able to sharpen your craft, able to learn from others, and able to build your confidence, because also some of this is about soft skills, right? How do you know? You don't know what you don't know. And oftentimes by collaborating with others who are either on the same journey or a little ahead, you get to exchange and strengthen your understanding of what's possible. For example, this week, we have 4 Kenyan curators going to Venice for the first time in their lives. And this is as part of a British Council fellowship. That's part of the Venice Biennale program. They get to run this, they were competitively selected. They get to be in Venice for a month, invigilate the exhibitions, and run projects of their own. I'm really excited to see what some of the outcomes will be, because I appreciate that they will get to learn more about their craft. They will forge deep connections with the rest of the cohort, because there are 40 fellows as part of this program. And they will come back with new ideas about how to change the work that they do and how to influence their sectors. So I hope that responds to your question.
Just a follow-up on the same.
Sure.
Just 1 minute. I know Tom has to leave right now, but let's appreciate him as a guest.
Yeah, just a follow-up on the same. Given the geographical spread, will the event be limited to Nairobi and London, or will other cities be also involved?
Yeah.
Please kindly clarify this.
No problem. So once you have access to the website, you will see that we will list all the events and where they will take place. So the ambition is that events will happen across Kenya and the UK, including, and again, because it is partner-led, we are really listing those events based on where the partners are from and what they intended to do. So even some of it I don't quite know yet, because they're still in the design phase. And that's the beautiful thing about how we're working. We're not prescriptively saying that there must be 3 events in Kisumu, 10 in Elgeyo Marakwet. It's saying, what did you want to do? Where did you want to be? And how will you connect to those audiences, right? And then also a lot of the work that we're doing is hybrid. So there will be an opportunity to connect to some of the events and the outcomes online. So please look out for the listing, because yes, the intention is that there will be events across Kenya and across the UK.
Okay, so that conversation we were having earlier about following us on Instagram, you see where it was going? So please follow us on Instagram. The handle is @EastAfricaArts. And when you follow on Instagram, you'll see a link there, a link on bio. It will lead you to our WhatsApp channel, which is British Council Kenya. So please also follow us on that WhatsApp channel, because that's where you get to see announcements about the Braid Fund, for example, which is launching later this week, and all the other programs projects and activities that Sandra has spoken about. So we can do another round of questions. Just put your hand up and the mic will come to you. Okay, we have another one at the front as well. Go ahead.
Kumodaki from the Standard. And the question is, I've heard you mention some figures. Can you clarify how much or perhaps the cost of the project, and specifically in Kenya?
Is that clear?
How much? So I had mentioned some figures. Yes, I mentioned figures for the Catalyst grants. So the Catalyst grants were £5,000 for the initial round, and it will be included in the press release. So that's 835,000 Kenya shillings for £5,000. And then 11 projects got further funding from those 19, and they got £10,000, which is 1.67000. Yeah, so 1.67 million Kenya shillings each.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. My name is Fred Dongo. I work for SME Business Magazine. I also freelance. I wanted you to elaborate more on the 19th architectural exhibition in Venice.
Yes.
I want to know whether you are working with the AAK, Architectural Association of Kenya, because architecture is very, though artistic, it is very technical. You can give us a brief explanation. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we
Sure.
can take another question here. Get the mic at the front.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Simon Peter from my study. So during your speech, you actually mentioned in terms of arts and culture, I've seen more emphasis on arts, music, and fashion. So just to reiterate what my colleague was saying in regards to events, events also is part of the creative economy. So again, are there other concentration as those investment channeled towards the events space, because it's still part of the creative economy?
One more?
Let me do this too.
Okay.
So let me start with your question on events. So just to be clear, a lot of the work that you're hearing me mention culminating events. So events are at the core of the season, because showcasing and being able to demonstrate what your collaboration is will more often than not, culminate in an event. So there will be multiple events across the timeline between May and November. We have already put up a few of the events that we have confirmed, and we will continue to upload and update the site based on what we hear from our partners. So events are at the core of the work that we're doing. But because we are a grant-giving organization that works through others, we do not have grants that are about events, if you know what I mean, like developing the platforms beyond what I mentioned. And you're very close to Dionys, you can whisper to him nicely to understand what the investment was in Hustle Sasa. But you're right, platforms are important, and digital innovations within that context are key. So people who are interested and who develop platforms like that would be eligible for the grants that are coming up, and they can check out the Braid Fund. But as is, we expect that a lot of the collaborators will run events, but the season itself is not directly investing in event platforms. Does that answer your question? And then on how the Venice Architectural Biennale works, it's really dynamic, and we have been, so this has been a long time in the making. In 2023, we put out a call for applications for architects and collaborators who would be interested in working with a UK partner to develop an exhibition for the Biennale. And this competitive process, we worked with the architectural associations and all kind of interested parties. And one of the things that came to light for me in that exercise was exactly what you're saying, just how technical an industry it is. And the challenge with what we were putting forward is that the Biennale looks at that collaboration, that intersection of artistic integrity, artistic expression, while also thinking about the questions that we're asking each other in the world. So for example, it's not about who can build the best building. You know, it's looking at the question of what is so to speak to the theme. The theme for the pavilion in Venice is geologic repair, and the creatives are looking at what does it take to repair the planet based on the materials that we've been using, the approaches to architecture, our thinking about our relationship with space. You know, it's asking more meta questions than it is asking about the technical requirement to make a thing. So yes, we have collaborated in the sense that we made everybody aware that this was an opportunity, and there will be events where the curators will be speaking. The first one that is hybrid will be on the 9th of June, and you'll see it in the events calendar with the Geologic Society of the UK, where they will be in conversation about why repair and why sustainability when we think about architecture, and how practices from the continent, for example, are already lending themselves to sustainability.
Okay, we have another question here. Who has the mic? Please stand up as you ask your question. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gloria from Radio Africa. The main focus is youth empowerment and development. Now, my question is, for that particular person in, say, Marala and Marsabit, they might, most probably are underrepresented, but they have the passion, they have the opportunity to show, through their creativity, to express things about their cultural heritage. So how will this program come up, or are there criteria as to how you can also source out to find them so that they can be able to benefit from it? And how best are you guys trying to ensure that it will have a long-term impact so that also the creative economy can grow in the country before we get to the global stage?
Okay, thank you. Any other question? The gentleman at the back. Please stand up as you ask your question.
Hello, my name is Timmy Mwalili. I'm a digital journalist and a content creator. So I'm curious to know, when you start a project with an artist, either a visual artist or a musician, at which point do you leave them now to maneuver on themselves? What is that one thing that you look at them that you say now they can work on their own? We have done our part. Maybe you can clarify on that.
Okay. I like that because these questions are very much connected. You're both interested in the approach and our ways of working. And, you know, as I was mentioning before, the work that we do at the British Council is artist-led. And maybe let me speak a little bit more to that and use the Braid Fund as an example. So as I mentioned, the Braid Fund is run by a partner that is called TICA, which is the Trust for Indigenous Cultures and Health. And we work with and through others to avoid the thing that you're saying. You know, when organizations like the British Council center themselves, it's harder to reach communities and artists and creatives that do not know how to make a direct connection with the British Council for whatever reason. It could be language, whatever access barriers exist, it becomes harder if you don't work through others. So a lot, if not 100%, I think 90% of our work is done through others. And TICA are a really great example. We were really thinking about what the opportunity is for creatives who are at the beginning of their career. You know, earlier I said this thing you don't really know what you don't know, right? So how do you find out what you don't know and what you need to know to be able to develop the career that you're after? So in working with TICA, we really developed a new framework for granting creative heritage practitioners, because we've seen that for the most part, people who are working in more contemporary cultures, so like, you know, popular music, for example, are more likely to gain access to funding than that young person in Maralal who is thinking about their cultural heritage. So we wanted to develop a project that is specifically addressing or really framed for that context. And that's what the Braid Fund is, so that we are looking at investing in the skills, the confidence, and the capacities of creatives locally before we start negotiating and having the conversations about how do you collaborate internationally. There has to be a sense of journey. There has to be a path that is kind of clear and accessible and understandable for young people to see how they gain their skills and how they can build their networks as well to be able to do the thing that they want to do. Because also we appreciate that sometimes people don't have the formal training or access to that level of education to be able to develop or sharpen those skills. So through the Braid Fund, what we do is we have a two-step application process, because also you will see often in the creative sectors and often with accessing money anywhere, you have a really long application form that is often complicated to fill in. And so when it comes to the work that we do with TICAT, the Braid Fund, is saying you can send in a video expression of interest, literally saying, what are you trying to do? Why now? What will you do with these funds? And how can it support you to do that next thing? And then if your expression of interest makes sense, and when I say makes sense, it's not from a subjective perspective. It is when you think about the money that the partner is asking for, does the activity match the ask? Things like that. Is your expression of the urgency or the thing that you're saying it has to happen now, or this is the motivation, is it clear? And is it also true? Someone can say that there's an endangered tribe in place X and they may or may not exist, So we check for the factuality of the thing, and then also see, is your approach grounded in something that you can deliver? Can you do the thing that you're saying you're trying to do? So that way, by the time that the British Council invests that grant, you can be left alone to manage that money. So I hope that answers both questions. That question of when do you leave an artist? We don't leave artists. We try to create communities where they can tap in, thrive, connect with each other through the British Council and through our partners. But in the way that the models have been created, in this way that we say we are interested in the thing that you're interested in, that is honestly a more sustainable way of working, because you will continue to be interested, hopefully, in the thing that you're interested in. And if you change your mind, if you decide I'm no longer interested in heritage, I'm now interested in contemporary music, or I'm now interested in literature, that you can still come back to the British Council and those interests will be provided for based on the opportunity that you apply for. So it might sound a little bit abstract, but at its core, I think the key message is the way that we work centers the artist to be able to access resources, networks and funding that they need to do the work that they're setting out to do. It is not about themes or priorities set out by the British Council. It is really, what are you trying to do? Why are you trying to do it now? And how can the British Council support you to meet those goals?
Great. Thank you very much, Sandra. We appreciate all the excuse me. We appreciate all the questions and comments. I know we still have a lot more that needs to be clarified, but Ken and Alfred, if you have not already received communication from them, a press release from them, be assured that you will receive one which has more detailed information. And we're all still here. We're all here to engage and respond to any questions you may have one-on-one. Feel free to walk to any of us. Please ask the British Council team that are here to just wave or stand so that you know who to speak to. So if you have any further questions on any of the items that Sandra has spoken about, you can reach out to any of us directly, and we'll be happy to respond to those queries. So thank you, Sandra, for that. Yeah, let's give her a round of applause. Asante. So at this stage, I would like to invite final comments. Thank you very much for a vote of thanks from our host, the Deputy Country Director of the British Council here in Kenya, Ms. Mukami.
Thank you, everybody. Mine is simple, just to say asante sana for coming. You are with us at the very start of the journey. I've been hearing the questions, and I think when we hold a similar press briefing in November, it will be easier for all of us to be able to track. So what have we done in Turkana? How many people have we engaged with? How many people have we engaged with in Kakamega and others? And I've specifically mentioned those ones because we are working there in one of our arts programs, Sanara, that's Healing in Fashion. So we really do have a lot to share with you over the course of the year, and we are very excited about it. For now, asanteni sana. There is still more coffee, tea, juice, yogurt, and many other things. I welcome you to, as you're debriefing on the conversation that we've had, please enjoy what we have here. Also, we have, as Sandra and Tom have mentioned, the launch is this Friday. Second, if you have not received an invitation, please do let Janet know. Kama is at the back there, wave to the voters, all right? Please, they will give you all the contacts and the information that you require. And what is really great about Friday is that the partners that we are working with will be here. So it will be a great opportunity for you to get to hear from them directly. As Sandra said, we are centering the artist in all of this work, in the work that we are doing, not only in the arts, but in our work in education, our work in informal education. There is so much. Mambo ni mengi, masaa ni machache. So with that, I want to say asanteni sana. Please welcome again. Janet will be sharing information, contacts on how you can get updates weekly, monthly. So that you are up to date on everything that's happening. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much. That marks the end of our session. Karibuni for more tea and conversation.